Okay, this might be one for unlisted, although it doesn't seem so good at the moment because particularly one of my unlisted videos, the link which has been shared with nobody has mysteriously had, I don't know, 20 views before I put it to private. And there's plenty of things I could be doing constructively, plenty of things in my to-do list. But I've just got an itch that I can't scratch called Sharon GALE. And I guess putting off dealing with the subject is just starting to annoy me. So even if I just do this to vent, but knowing me, I will then release it. It's like when you poke the bear and then for days afterwards you get tortured and trolled. But yeah, let me say my piece. Oh my goodness me. So I've been very protective of Sharon since I first cyber met her. I've deliberately avoided listening to a lot of her drunken, abusive rants with my name on her lips, although it got reported back to me. But I've caught, even though I've unsubscribed, but I've caught a couple of her recent, it just beggars belief, and I feel that I no longer owe her the loyalty that I first misplaced with her. I heard her saying that people like myself and Brian Harvey swarmed around her when she started a YouTube channel. I can't speak for Brian, but I didn't do any swarming. Sharon GALE phoned me a lot. If you know me or knew me on Facebook, I very rarely call people on Messenger. I'm old-fashioned and I find it a bit intrusive, actually, to just randomly call people, especially video call people that you don't know. But Sharon called me many times, and I think probably each time drunk, until in the end I just said to her, look, I'm the child of an alcoholic and it triggers me to have extended conversations with somebody in an extreme state of inebriation. So don't take it personally, but I just would rather talk to you when you're sober. So no, there was no swarming by me. And the last time she tried to contact me was to see if I could call Androgine off. But I'm very offended by her attack on Matt Taylor, basically, based on trollish misinformation. I don't know Matt Taylor personally, I haven't met him, but I've seen and been around his work for a few years, and long enough to see him set up and persecuted by trolls, most of whom are BFFs with Sharon GALE. I'm wondering if she's the new, younger, shinier version of Karen Irving. Or Shiva Burton and so on, just rolled out as a sort of Antichrist Jezebel spirit, kind of a shell of a good-looking woman that has such a spirit of seduction about her that the fiercest of trolls just melt in her presence. I was witness to Danny Jones going back and forth with her in her comments, or saying that he could be an officer and a gentleman, he could be Richard Gere for her, and he would gladly come to her aid and die for her, to protect her honour and keep her safe. And, Brian Harvey talked about Sharon offering to travel to Walthamstow for a shag, which he declined. He said that in a live stream. And he declined it possibly because he said it felt like it could be a honey trap. She could go and cry rape or cause all sorts of mischief after the fact, and he just didn't feel it was a good idea, and was off-put by the extreme drunkenness and the taxi driver that was brought home, and by Sharon, you know, and seemed like a nice gentleman, and you know, but it went so depraved, and I just feel like the high ground that Sharon keeps trying to take, calling Callie Diamond a brass and Nikki an ex-brass and so on. From what high tower are you speaking, Sharon? I think I'm going to spill on what you drunkenly spilled to me months and months ago when I tried to encourage you. I believed you that your baby's death was a vaccine death that was horrifically covered up and framed by the state. I hadn't gone into such depth as Nikki Cooper and T did. I had seen articles, I had heard that there were fractures. The baby, Charlotte, had multiple 32 fractures. I didn't know about the injury behind the eye, the brain injury. I don't know what kind of horrors existed to cover up what I believed was a vaccine murder, really, and then cover up. But, you know, you said things like, I don't know. I suppose those questions, if you're going to take the high moral ground and make accusations and call people brasses and discredit or do your very best to discredit child abuse, then I guess you're going to need to answer questions eternally. And this may be why you've been put in a position of power and influence, because of your Achilles heel with your own child. And more importantly, or as importantly, it is true what Nikki and T asserted in their live stream, that yes, you have a 5-year-old, maybe 6 by now. I don't know if this guy you're with at the moment is Mustafa. I don't know if he's the child's father. But yes, you told me about and how you came back to the UK with her as a 3-year-old and very soon thereafter had her taken by social services. You may have spoken about that on the Richie Allen show, I don't know. I've given up researching you because you've just descended to a level that is actually destructive now. If it was just self-destruct, which is what I thought it was at first, I had compassion on you. I've struggled with alcohol issues, addictions, nicotine, you know, self-destruct, and everybody can go through a bad patch. But I suspect you've been alcoholic for decades and haven't yet got to a place of saying, it's made my life unmanageable, you know. So whilst you're eliciting sympathy from people, don't you drag baby Charlotte's name through the mud, what about, you know, what about your 5 or 6-year-old? Why aren't you talking about that? You know, as you keep doing double reference hypocrisy, like, oh, people shouldn't be discussing the Wilfred Wong case. I mean, anybody knows that as you discuss the Wilfred Wong case, which is really the Anchor Hill case. You know, as you trash Samantha Baldwin and other mothers, and listen to, I'm breathtaken at you putting into DuckDuckGo, oh, psychologists accused of implanting satanic ritual abuse memories. There are 7.6 billion people on the planet. You can pretty much find alleged evidence for anything. That's not research, Sharon Gale. You know, read some scholarly books. Read Children for the Devil. Read Cover Up of the Century. Read, you know, read some scholarly not newspaper. You should know better than anybody how the newspapers lie. You said they lied about you. They lied about your husband. I find it very disturbing that you married him after baby Charlotte's death. And I have to ask the question, well, I don't have to, but the question comes to mind, is that because a husband and wife can't testify against each other? Is that the law in England? I don't know. You claim to do such excellent research in some areas, and yet you are being led by the nose by the likes of Grobnob, Trouser Mouse, and Danny, whatever his name, Lyndon Warden, Danny Jones he goes by, being fed articles by them for you to put out, whether sober or drunk. It was embarrassing seeing you when your Muslim friend in Turkey, whoever, if that's Mustafa, the father of I've got no idea. But it was embarrassing seeing your embarrassment at him appearing on camera, because as he fawned over you and massaged your shoulders and kissed your hand and adored you, I don't know, there was just this real unease about you. It was almost as if he was interrupting your role of seducing every male that watches you, like trying to have every woman wish she was you and every male wish they were him, and it maybe interrupted the narrative to have this paramour who seems to be good to you, but if he's father, what are the two of you doing? Instead of blasting everybody else's business out online, what are you doing about your own daughter? How long is it since you saw her? Why don't you take up that fight instead of fighting for the Satanists to prove they don't exist and to prove satanic ritual abuse doesn't exist? Why don't you come a little closer to home and fight for your daughter? And another thing I'll pull you up on, when you had a little spat with your son, I think your 23-year-old son, on a live stream, all of which you delete the next day, but at that stage I used to watch your lives, and cringe sometimes, and, comment sometimes and pray for you and hope that it was just a phase that would pass before you took it to the next level, down and down and down, until you've turned into a Supertroll, But your son was kind of seemed a bit annoyed that you were drunkenly live streaming. And he was asking you if you'd fed the cat and was there any dinner before he went to soccer. And yes, he's 23, he doesn't need to depend on you for those things. But then you justified your parenting by telling him how much money you'd spent on him, and how you'd cleared his £2,000 debt and you'd paid his way through university and you'd subbed this and subbed that. And really, if you haven't realised by now that money doth not a parent make, then I don't know what to tell you. So, do your worst, Sharon. Like, the ironic thing, through the filter of your troll brigade, the only thing you could grasp from Nikki's anger at you was that she may have accidentally called you a potential baby killer, as opposed to your husband having been alleged to have been a baby killer. And you didn't even address the fact that you have a little girl, not with you, and not being campaigned for publicly by you, although you're attacking everybody else that's doing everything else. Matthew Taylor brought very credible evidence-based allegations against Sussex police and people associated with them, and instead of his watertight evidence being acted upon, the Chief of Police, Katie Bourne, took proceedings against him for stalking and harassment. That's a playbook. That's a tactic. That does not a stalker make, you know. And the other person that won a court case against him was Ricky Dearman of the Hampstead case. If you keep going on the trajectory you're on, Sharon, who knows, next you'll be speaking up for him. So, Matt Taylor's very gifted, and for you to call him special, and, oh, he's got form, and just, I thought you were a researcher. You know, are you? Or did you just do enough research to cost 4-point-something million to the British taxpayer and then have a collapsed trial with no conclusion as to how a 10-week-old baby died with 32 fractures and a dislodged brain? And I'm still open to it being vaccine death and a cover-up. But it doesn't look good. And it certainly doesn't sound like a mountain from which you should preach and influence people, you know? And, you know, you Andrew Guy, and another one that you've gone, you know, tried to belittle and humiliate. This is a tactic. You're a bully. You're a bully, Sharon. Yeah, so if I were Matt Taylor and you did indeed report him to the police, I would be very quick to say, by the way, this lady herself has been reported to the police for hate speech, you know. And I'm not one for going to the police or installing laws of hate speech and, you know, so on and so forth. But if ever there's a case that warrants it, I'm afraid you're one of them. You really are. You're a bully. And a liar. And a liar by omission. And even to hear you taking the high ground, there are people that have saved all your worst bits, and oh my goodness, there are some bad bits. I wouldn't enjoy regurgitating those, but I don't know. I could do an in-depth, you know, showing bits of videos of you and showing your hypocrisy that seems to escalate, and showing your fraternity of troll, you know, and you I don't know if it's just a Jezebel thing where you think, aren't I great? I can conquer any troll by seduction, even cyber seduction. I can conquer them all. I flirt with them and, oh, Grob, what you been doing? Oh, Grob, stop. And Trousers, oh, lovely video. Oh, well done. Oh, Trousers going live. Oh, let's all go live. Let's all go over to Trouser Mode. It's embarrassing, Sharon. It's embarrassing. And Danny Jones, like, ready to come down and be Richard Gere in Portsmouth. Jesus Christ. But you know you're not really fooling yourself. You might be fooling, you know, enough people to keep a few quid coming in. You know, if you know, why are you doing everything off your credit cards? You know, like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I thought you had it in you to be one of the good guys. I thought your work exposing crooked doctors that wrote false reports and got a lot of people's children stolen. I thought really you were on the same side. I thought you were a good person. And you seem to have descended into the pit of hell. And I'm not having it. So that's my say. And I'll decide later whether to put this up or just, you know, because a lot of seasoned broadcasters or truthers say, don't poke the bear, don't engage the trolls. But sometimes it's hard not to. God bless.